Good evening and welcome to Real Talk with Marcus McCoy. I'm your host, Marcus McCoy. And before we get started, I gotta let you guys know I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so you might hear me cough or something like that. But I promise you, it is not COVID. I've had several tests and I'm good to go. Today we're gonna be talking about different aspects of friendship, which is I think is all an important topic for all of us. I would like to introduce our guest, Miss Chante Burnell. She's a single mother of one and an active duty U.S. Army soldier. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Other than being a little sick. Yeah. I'm gonna try to keep that over here though.
I appreciate
Okay,
that.
all right. Let's dive right into it when we talk about friendship. What are the characteristics or traits you look for in a friend and why?
So there are different levels of friendship, but when you ask that question, immediately I think of like a close friend, an intimate friend, somebody I would consider like a best friend. But at each level, I think certain levels of expectations, should be set on what to expect. But from a close friend, trustworthiness would be at the top of my list. It has to be someone who I can trust, has my best interest at heart, is going to, be someone I can trust around my material possessions, around my significant other, and, just someone that I can turn to at any time, regardless of what I'm going through. Um, Loyalty is another one. And that rides into the last comment that I said. You have to kind of be like a ride or die. Be there for me all the time. Be there with me to celebrate my successes and my accomplishments, and be there with me when I'm crying and feel like the world is coming to an end. Um, Accountability, doing what you say you're going to do. When you say you're going to do it, I did.
Because I'm looking at my list and it looks like you like. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
I'm gonna be honest with you. This is what I did. I sat down and had this conversation with my best friend to see what we agreed about. And these were the points that we hit that we felt were important to both of us. Support was another big one. And I joked around with her and I'm like, yeah, because when I'm on a diet and we want to go out to eat, I don't need you picking the place. She likes Italian, you know what I'm saying? Or going somewhere like Five Guys with the greasy burger. That's not supportive.
I ain't gonna lie. Five Guys. That's my spot.
We can have some options.
With the Cajun fries too. Oh. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That don't help my waistline. But she understands that.
Gotcha.
And then having the same morals and values is very, very important. Having similar goals in terms of career, education, different areas in our lives, the way we raise our kids, what we value. Most important for me as a spiritual person is having someone that at all times I feel like I can have a conversation about how God is working in my life or what's going on, and we can pray together, pray for one another, encourage others to pray. But so for me and for someone like me, that spirituality is a big part of their life. That would be, I would believe, an important factor. But that's summing up the discussion we had and what I see as the main components of like a true close friendship.
So before I give my actual answer, just to kind of double back on something you said you want somebody that's, spiritual or somebody who has a close relationship with God, right? With somebody who doesn't, like maybe not necessarily in that same realm as, maybe let's say they do believe in God to an extent, right? But they don't share the same spiritual faith that you have. Would that exclude them from being your friends, or like how would you go about that situation?
It wouldn't exclude them from being my friends, but it would probably exclude them from being a close friend, because that is so important to me. And if I don't feel, going back to the factor of support, if I don't feel like I have that support from you spiritually, that's a negative factor for me.
Okay. So my traits of characteristics, I'm going to say all of them and then I'm going to get my reason why I picked it. So I picked loyalty, trustworthiness, honesty, and accountability. I feel like, in my own opinion, feel like loyalty sums all of those up, right? Because Through life, I've had different friends that, you consider to be loyal. And then like when you really need them, they're nowhere to be found. So I feel like a loyal friend, one that's, like you said, a ride or die, somebody's going to have your back no matter what, thick and thin. But I feel like a loyal friend is also going to tell you when you're doing something wrong or when you messed up, right? I feel like a lot of times we have, I wouldn't say friends, we have acquaintances that just tell you what you want to hear instead of what you need to hear for that appropriate situation. And I've had those type of friends too, where like, let's say I was doing something that maybe wasn't in the best interest of myself or whatever it was I was doing, right? But instead of saying, hey, look, you're going down the wrong path or you might need to do this, they just go along with it. We call it go along to get along. And I don't feel like that's really like a true friend. And then I feel like over the years too, I used to be quick to call somebody like my homeboy, my homegirl, or my friend, right? But then as you grow older, you learn that those people are not your friends. Some people are only in your life for just a season. They might have had their season and their season has time, has came and went, and now it's time to move on from there. So do you consider yourself a good friend? And
Can
why?
I piggyback off of something right quick?
Go ahead.
So I had to learn this as a friend, and it's what you stated is the part where a good friend, as I stated earlier, someone I can trust to give me sound advice, right? Regardless of whether it's something I want to hear or not. But on the opposite end of that, as a friend, I can't be so upset or I can't even think of the word right now, but I can't feel so disrespected by your opinion that I don't take it into consideration. Because as a friend, I'm not going to negate what you said. I have to understand that whatever you're telling me, whatever guidance, in most cases, if I really trust you as a friend, is for my well-being. It's not because you want to hurt me. It's not because you're jealous, whatever the case might be, which happens in a lot of friendships.
Absolutely.
But if I trust you as a close friend and you're giving me some feedback that I don't necessarily want to hear, as a friend, I need to be able to accept and value your input. And I don't think that happens a lot. I think we're quick to say, oh, don't just tell me what I want to hear, but are we quick to accept what somebody has to say when we don't want to hear it?
Almost definitely. But most people don't want to hear what they don't want to hear. Just truthfully, right? Like you got the human aspect, and a lot of times we'll ignore a lot of good advice from our friends just because we don't want to feel like, because like sometimes you get somebody tells you about yourself, it makes you feel bad, right? But you should be able to accept it in theory, right? But that is not always what we do. Do you consider yourself to be a good friend and why? And I'm gonna love to see what your answer is for this.
So honestly, I do consider myself to be a good friend based off of intent. I always have the intent to want to help others and be the best friend I can. I start feeling guilty sometimes when maybe my schedule is really packed and I have a friend call me with a problem and I just unfortunately really don't have time to help them at that moment, or they're in a situation and I'm so busy with other things that I can't give it my attention. But I feel that I've learned over the years to be the best friend that I can be, but it's been based off of past experiences with people that I've had to learn that I maybe thought were my friends that weren't, people that, as you stated, were only in my life for a season. And then, the friendship ended. So through those situations, I believe it's made me the best friend that I can be today, because I always want to know that I bring value as a friend, and that I'm treating others the way that I would want them to treat me.
Okay. So I'm obviously going to say, I think I'm a good friend. All right. I'm just being real. I don't think nobody thinks that they're a bad friend, but these are the reasons why I think I'm a good friend, right? Is one of the main things is I feel like I make myself available. Sometimes, you might have a friend that's going through something and you're just there to listen. You don't have to, and I've had this on both sides of the spectrum where I was going through something and somebody made themselves available and they let me vent. A lot of times, people just don't make themselves available for you in a friendship. And I think that's where a lot of stuff goes awry. I said loyalty already, but I put that I have a big heart, which is a gift and a curse, right? Because a lot of times I go out on a limb for somebody else, right? When they're not willing to do the same in return. And I don't do it because I expect anything in return, but you just think sometimes that when you do something out of the goodness of your heart for your friend, that, in your time of need, so to speak, that, they're going to be there. And that's just not always the case. The last thing I put is how far would you go or have you gone for a friend? This is a question for me and you both. As far as friendship.
As far as friendship,
I mean, you don't have to like get like in
I'm
depth
just trying
with,
to think. I've done so much stuff. I would say the furthest I did was probably give like large sums of money to help somebody
big
out.
Bank, y'all. Hey, you heard it. Hey, look, I'm just finna throw this alley real fast. She's single and she got big bank. I'm just throwing it out there.
Thank you. That's what a friend does.
Yeah,
right? That's what a friend does.
You're
looking out. But I mean, that's the well, when I was younger, it was a little different because younger meant we was jumping in the car, riding past somebody's house, doing all that crazy stuff.
Right.
So back then I would have said, I did this and that and the other with a friend, but as I have matured and become a better friend to people, I would no longer let my friends do that, by the way. But I would say giving up the money or traveling pretty far to help somebody out.
Okay. So mine includes money too, right? Not a great sum, but I'm gonna hold my portion of that for a question that's later on in the discussion. And remember, I said this because I'm gonna bring it back forward. Now, this is a good one that I think everybody wants to talk about. Why can't two people of the opposite sex just be friends?
Well, who said they can't?
I'm just going off, the judgment side. But I mean, what do you think? What do you think make people like see it that way? Like,
so clearly, the answer is yes, it can be done because I'm pretty sure that myself, you, others that we know have had relationships or friendships with, people different, the opposite sex, and haven't crossed those boundaries, right? But according to research, even though it can be done, in most cases, because there's a intimate connection and attraction, often men are going to want to cross those boundaries. Or at least have that discussion.
I need to see this data.
Listen, I found it on the internet, so it must be true.
Why I gotta be? Was on Wikipedia?
No.
Why men got to be? Why I got to be men?
So this is what happened. They've done studies where they brought in close friends, male and female, to get their different takes on the relationship. And what they found was, in most cases, the women were able to restrain themselves a little bit better from having those feelings of wanting to cross the friendship boundaries. Men were a little bit more apt, but in most cases it was addressed, right? It was put on the table. It was, hey, what if this happened?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that can be expected because it's natural. We're humans, we're attracted to others. It's just the nature of the beast. But it's not impossible to just be someone's friend, which brings me to another, part of friendship is the boundaries part, which is very, very important. You have to, regardless of how close you are to someone or how not close you are, if they're just an acquaintance or someone you work with, you have to set those boundaries and, have realistic expectations of the other person. So I think having those boundaries, even having that conversation as many times as you need to determine how y'all want to proceed in the friendship is important. But definitely overall, yes, men and women can be just friends.
So my answer to the question is yes as well. However, I wrote some different things that I think I would say why people don't view it that way. So obviously you take, a man and a woman, right? They could, be laughing, joking. They could have a really good, just goofy friendship, right? but because the other people are looking at them from their own spectrum on the outside, they judge them, right? So then they put them in this box, and because that's their perception, and they make it their reality that there has to be something going on with them. I also put envy, because I know me and you talked about a situation where you've had friends in the past, right, that were, male friends, and then somebody else, because they wanted to talk to that person, they automatically put you in the box with that person because they wanted them. And then on the other side of it is now this is bias, right? It's a biased question because there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, I have my answer, but I'm gonna want to see what your answer is. Who makes better friends, men or women?
I would have to say probably naturally women, because we are more nurturing.
Bias.
And I believe men have a little bit more intent behind their. But I want to go back to what you were just talking about. So I think that it's easier in the situations that you just mentioned, of people hating, being jealous, envious, whatever, however you want to term it. It's easier for females, or it can be easier for females to feel more comfortable having male friends and male associates, because they don't get that same kind of judgment. They don't get those same feelings that, women can make you feel, and vice versa. It might be easier for a man to be friends with a woman who's more nurturing, more understanding, and not as judgmental and make them feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a part of going into the male-female friendship, how that can evolve, just based on being more comfortable with somebody.
So I don't think either one of them make better friends. See, you pick a side, I'm in the middle. And I'm going to tell you why. So obviously there are some people that get along better with, men, some people that get along better with women. I think it's really just based on the person. Because I've had male friends that are really close to, I've had female friends that are really close to. It just depends on the person. And I feel like though the traits and the characteristics that we talked about earlier, I feel like when you find those in somebody, the things that you hold during a friendship, I feel like you're going to naturally gravitate to that type of person, regardless of what sex they are. Because it's basically like you're looking at a mirror to an extent. Like we have the same belief system, we have the same values, right? You just happen to be a male, or you just happen to be a female.
Maybe.
And as far as your comment on women being more nurturing, are you saying that just from the aspect of being a mother, or
it's just the nature of women? Like, because
men can be nurturing
too.
Well,
we are created to breed and carry babies, and we just tend to have a more nurturing nature, human nature. And that's, once again, not just my thought, but that's research. We'll say that's, even if that's not the case, that's what most people think, right? And I mean, based off of my own experiences, I have a lot of male friends, but I would not go out of my way to say that they're as nurturing as my female friends, or that they would go out of their way as much for somebody else as my female friends. But
I think you got the wrong group of friends.
Apparently I do. Yeah, but that's why we're here today.
Let me put that out. So you got the wrong.
This is like my therapy session, so I can figure out what I'm really looking for in a friend.
Man, I'm holding it down for us. I am taking up for. We can be very nurturing. I'm not saying that women are not more nurturing. I'm just saying that we can be. That's all I'm saying. Okay. That's my whole point.
As your friend, I respect your point.
Thank you, friend. And as your friend, I respect your viewpoint as well. All right. Now, this one, right? Is it okay to date the friend of an ex?
Okay, so I think that's situational.
I don't think it's situational.
Some people are actually cool with it. And I'll give you an example. I was hanging out with a friend maybe about 3 or 4 months ago. And she met a guy, and I think it was like CVS or Walgreens. They exchanged numbers. She was very attracted to him. She went and told another friend, like, hey, I met this guy, showed him a picture and whatever. And then the friend is like, oh, that's my ex-husband. And they had that conversation.
That's some heat right there.
Right. They
not the ex-husband.
and the ex-wife had moved on, gotten remarried. She had lived her life. And her point of view to my friend was, hey, I know you're a good person, and I want him to be with someone who I know is a good person. I would be more confident with you or somebody like you being with him. So it really just depends on the people in the situation, how each of them view it. For me, it wouldn't work because I have blinders on. Like, once a friend has been with a man, I can never see him in a sexual manner. I just won't bring myself to it. Because, to me, that just crosses too many lines, too many boundaries. It can be seen as disrespectful. If they're having issues, I don't want to be thrown in the middle of it because I'm dating him, but she was my friend. And it just seems like more drama than what it's worth to me. But I'm sure that there are several people in the situation that have been able to make it work successfully. It's not one of those things that's for everybody.
So I'm gonna say, yes, I obviously understand it can be done. I wouldn't do it though, because I just feel like you said it's just so many boundaries, and like once you be with one of my friends, right? Like, again, I don't look at you like I could never ever, like, even if it wasn't something that was serious, right? It's just for a lot of things for me, it's just a principle, right? Like, why would you want to be with somebody that that your friend has already been with in whatever capacity, right? They could have just been, real close relationship. It could have been nothing sexual, but at some point they were together in some capacity. I just feel like that's just a no-no. Then I feel like you just open up all kind of other. For me, it would be a trust thing later on too, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, if I was your friend, say, male friends, right? And you knew I talked to somebody previously, and then you go and you talk to that person afterwards. Like, I just wouldn't view you the same. Like, what kind of morals do you have if you think that's something that's okay? Like, we were cool one minute, and next thing you know, that's my ex, whatever she was to me, and then all of a sudden you're dating. I would, as a person, I would just not feel cool about that. I just think it's kind of shady. But like you said, it's on the boundaries though. Next question. How do you feel about a friendship being one-sided or not having your effort as a friend respected?
So, as you stated earlier, I have a similar issue. I have a big heart, and it is a gift and a curse at the same time because you love to help people. You want to see people doing better. If you have it, you want to give it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you will come across those people that are users, and they know that you have a big heart, and they just want to be there to receive. But I think as you mature,
would that be a friend with benefits? And I don't mean like the natural the thought that everybody else is gonna think, like
sexual. You don't mean the sexual,
not the
way.
aspect. No.
Okay.
Just in general, you think that's a friend with benefit?
Somebody's getting the benefits, but the thing is, I had to realize that's not really a friendship. That was me being an enabler to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And we were throwing around the term friendship, but it wasn't, because those are not the dynamics of what we've already defined what we see as friendship, right? So I think as you get older, you can better pinpoint it before it gets too bad, mm-hmm. After they ask you for maybe one or two things, or they've done one or two things to you that you don't necessarily see them in the best light anymore, then you can determine how you want to proceed with them on that level. But of course, in younger days, there were some instances where I just didn't want to let go because I thought it was a friendship. But I definitely, as you mature and you grow, you'll see that it's not a friendship. And I think it's easier to just let go.
I think friendship is a two-way street. And I have been guilty of the same thing in the past, giving more to the friendship than the other person is giving in return. But, like everything else, it just, over time you evolve. You take life lessons that you had in the past, and they help you formulate whether somebody's going to be a friend or acquaintance. It's nothing like being when somebody uses you and like you're doing it out of the goods of your heart, and then you just basically get spit on, for lack of better terms. I think that's not cool. And I wrote down too. Some people want the benefits of being friends without putting in the work. I kind of look at friendship like a relationship in the same kind of aspect, right? So you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work in a relationship, in any relationship. Whether it's if you're with somebody or you're dating, it's the same thing with friendship. If you're not willing to put in the effort, then I feel like why keep you around if I'm gonna be doing the heavy lifting and you're just gonna be reaping the benefits. It's kind of like if you got somebody. Matter of fact, I'm gonna use a military type scenario, right? Okay. It's like this. Now, a lot of people not gonna get it because a lot of people not in the military, right? But you're gonna get it because you don't know what I'm talking about. So let's say I came from another duty station, right? Let's say I was a Sergeant E5. I was already high speed, right? That's just me. And then I get to this duty station, and then now my squad leader is a staff sergeant, right? He's not really at high speed, but I'm falling in under him, right? But because I'm so high speed, he gets the credit for it, or he gets the praise. It's like almost that same analogy. Like I'm being a better friend out of the two of us, but yet you're still getting all the benefits of it.
I do want to say something about that. I think I've told you this before, and those that are close to me know my philosophy. If I decide to keep you in my life, I accept you for who you are, right? So if you've shown me that you are this type of person who I'm going to have a one-sided relationship with for the most part, if I decide to keep you in my life for whatever reason, I can't expect anything else from you but that one-sidedness. And I think that we are so quick to let go of people or, make excuses or whatever the case is, but we don't take a lot of things into consideration. Like for me, there's some people I have in my life that I know it's more or less a one-sided relationship or one-sided friendship, but I also know that they maybe grew up without parents. They didn't have a stable household, or they just got out of a bad marriage, or, they had some situation that they didn't have the best outlook. They don't have the best circumstances. And I'm not necessarily going to walk away because, again, when I put my faith into play, God can use you in somebody's life for different reasons, different ways, whatever the case is. So it might be that person for a season who is given that one-sided friendship, but yet you're supposed to be in their life for a reason.
I feel that. I'm just cutting you off at this over with. I mean, me personally. Once
but you did your job.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you did your job, but I feel like you got one time with me, and if it's bad enough, hey, you getting the axe. Because I feel like that's then the person becomes like a leech, so to speak. How do you feel about? I actually already know how you feel about it, but I'm gonna ask anyway. How you feel about, like, say like you're in a relationship, right? And you and that person breaks up. How you feel about being friends with that person afterwards?
So for me, I don't mind it. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty cool. I don't know if I would use the word friends with my exes, but they all reach out. We check on each other on occasion, just speak. Sometimes through social media, through text messages, nothing significant. I think once you have accepted that it's over, and you can accept that you had good times with this person, or you can see the good characteristics of this person. It's like, okay, they weren't a complete, bad person, right. That I never have to speak to them again. So we can be cordial. We're not going to be like best friends. Unless we try the relationship again.
Gonna be ace boon coons.
We're not going to be ace boon coons. Because whoever I'm with not going to appreciate that in most cases.
And that is what I was going to go into. For me, it depends on the situation, right? Because like if I'm dating a person, right, like there's no way I'm finna be cool with you being friends, like on some buddy stuff with a guy you had a relationship with. I'm not gonna say I don't think, because I don't speak for the mass. Me personally, I wouldn't be fine with that. Because at some point I knew you had something with that person, right? And I feel like when you go into a new relationship, those are all boundaries that got to be set, things that got to be talked about. Because I feel like a lot of times if it's not said, then you just automatically assume because you're okay with it that your partner's going to be okay with it. And that's just not, you know what I'm saying, the case.
So question with that. What if children are involved?
I think you don't have a choice then. I mean, because you still got a co-parent.
But there's a difference between co-parenting and being close friends.
That's true, but I also seen people that co-parent that are also close friends and they're in a relationship with somebody else.
So if they have kids together, then they can be friends. But if they don't have kids together, you wouldn't approve of them being friends.
I'm saying the situation dictates that I think you're gonna have a good, whether you put the label friends on or not, you still gotta have a good relationship if you're co-parenting, regardless. I'm saying, yeah. Well, we know
that's a topic for another day.
Excuse me. Yeah, we know that's not always the case. Everybody does not have the best co-parenting relationship. It's just, and for those who do have it, hey, my hat's off to you, man. That's a great thing. But everybody doesn't have it. But again, like you said, that see, you already gave me a topic for the next. Okay, I appreciate it, Alex. Now, have you had any situations where you had to stop being friends with someone and then basically kind of like explain the situation or the gist of what happens to make you not be friends with them?
I've had quite a few situations.
Me too.
I would have to say the worst one was probably, many, many moons ago.
Did you say many?
Not to tell my age.
That's something somebody old would say.
Not to tell my age. Back in undergrad days.
Oh my God.
Early 2000s.
Many, many moons.
I want to say the worst thing that happened to me was someone I considered a best friend sleeping with my boyfriend. Because that's, for me, that's about as low as you can go. And I mean, in that situation, I was so upset. Of course, I didn't want to be that person's friend. Mm-hmm. But there's been other situations where I've actually felt hurt because I knew that the best thing for me was to cut ties with someone I thought was a friend. And, even if they didn't do anything as severe as that person did, it still can be, but once again, it comes with maturity. When you're not as mature, it can hurt a little bit more or seem a little bit more concerning to let go of someone you consider a friend.
Well, for me, I'm going to get into an elongated story. So for me, what happened was I had this friend one time. He was my friend at the time. And he was going through some stuff with his significant other, right? He was on his way out the military, all that kind of stuff, right? And, I've always had, children. I mean, I've been a parent since I was 19 years old. But he's going through a rough time, so I allowed him to stay in my house, right? Now, so it's not a crazy story because you put your head down like it's about.
I thought we was going down the same road I went down.
No, nothing like that. Excuse me, nothing like that. So anyway, let him stay in my house. But I got a rule, right? If you stay a certain amount of time, homeboy, you're gonna have to put in on these utilities, rent, all that, right? So the understanding at first was, hey man, you're gonna be here, for like a week or so, and then you go back doing what you're doing, right? So a week turned into like a month. So I told him, I said, hey, look, man, when the first come, hey man, I'm gonna need that rent money, because you eating my groceries, that's food and money you taking away from my own kids, right? So he fell on some hard time. So he left here, right? And he was like, hey, man, I promise, I'm going to pay you the money back, right? That was in 2014.
You ain't seen the money yet.
Oh, no, and I'm not finna see the money. It's 2022. But my point is, after that, I was like, you know what, man? I got to cut you off. And that's what I did. Because I feel like when you're saying on, trustworthiness as a friend, like you're only as good as your word. And if you tell me you're going to do something, that's what I expect you to do as a friend. Like I didn't have to open up my household to you, right? I had to ask, my kids how they felt about it and all that kind of stuff. And I let you do it, but then you don't. And it's crazy is he know it, and the dude know he missed it because I ain't heard from since then either, right? No contact, no nothing, right? But sometimes I feel like people they'll find a way to weed themselves out of your life as well too, without you having to do that much work. For me, money is a big thing. Don't play with me about my money. Like if you say you're just gonna give it to me and you know you owe it based on the circumstances, just give it to me. Or hey, I'm like a debt collector. If you want to split it up into payments or whatever you want to do, just get it back to me because I did the same for you. But that's just, unfortunately for that particular friendship at that time, that wasn't the case. So I feel like we had a awesome discussion, some very good points were made. Is there anything, what I'm saying, I want you to tell the viewers, is there anything that you want to leave them about this particular topic of friendship that we had today?
So I think it's important to know that social relationships are important and essential for your health, and good social relationships, which would be these good friendships. So research has shown that those who have these good social relationships live longer lives. We've also seen during the pandemic that the numbers rose in levels of anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and more of the mental health disorders. And a large part of that, not all of it, but a large part of that was due to the social atmosphere not being the same, people feeling isolated, not having the same level of social interaction. So regardless of what some people think, some people are introverted, some people are extroverted. Everyone looks at friendships differently. Everyone has different types of friendships that they deal with. I just want it to be known that it is very, very important. It's a very important aspect for your health. So make sure you maintain good, positive, healthy social relationships.
All right. So what I want to say is, oh man, I want to say that as far as friendship, it's definitely a two-way street. And don't take your friends for granted. I mean, because good friends are really hard to find this day and age. You'll have certain friends that it might be your friends, like we use the analogy for a season, and then next thing you know, they, what I'm saying, they get out of here. Hey, before we do, and I want you to know there will be, based off this conversation, because I think it was a really great conversation, there is going to be a friendship part 2 coming. I would love to get you guys feedback on, we're looking for people who are willing to share their experiences on friendship. You can email us or, put your comments in the comment section. All of it's welcome. But for me, I just say again, friendship, just be a friend. Like, do what you say you're going to do. Invest in that relationship because, again, friends are hard to find. But on the next show, something that I've been dying to get to, right? We're going to be talking about relationships, different spectrum of relationships. When I say relationships, I'm talking about, we're not just talking about from, a man or a male or woman perspective. I'm talking about with your kids, mother, daughter, father, son, all those type things. But until then, El Paso, until next time, it's been real.